this is Dave with MTB Discount. Last episode we actually were installing the brakes, did the rotors, we did the front brake line install, or brake setup install. We actually did the rear off camera just because it takes some time and it's a little redundant. But with this frame you actually have to route it through the lower swing arm down by the C-tube and up, so you actually have to disconnect the hose anyway. As I mentioned at the end of the last one, we do need to disconnect the hoses and actually cut them to length because they are a generic kit. They're going to fit just about everything. So this same kit will probably fit a 29 extra large frame as well as a medium 27, small 26. So you're going to have to do some trimming. So what we're going to do is show you how to trim the brake line and get yourself back up and running again here. So with the Avid brakes, the first thing you need to do is pull away this rubber cover here, and that exposes an 8mm fitting here. And so with that we're going to need an 8mm wrench, and then there's a barb fitting in here that is going to take a 10mm or a 10 Torx, and then we're going to need some cable cutters to cut the line. So again, these are great for housing. Since this is a hollow tube, you want to be able to actually cut it with this, not something flat like a standard wire cutter. So make sure you use your cable cutters at the very least. So first thing we're going to do then is just loosen up this fitting here. And once you get it going, it'll just back right off. And get a rag because you're going to have a little bit of seepage from the fluid releasing. You're going to have brake fluid everywhere. It'll flush your whole master cylinder. So there we go. So we've got a compression washer here. We're going to back this off, the nut off, and then kind of measure the line to where we want. So we're going to take a good few inches off this just to make sure that we don't have any binding or anything else there with the other lines. So once we've got it marked, we're going to go ahead and take the cable cutters and we're just going to cut the line. And I've got the bucket here for the dripping, and that way you don't make a mess on your shop floor. The cable cut and the edges cleaned up. You want to take your compression washer and place it over the hose and let it just slide down. It'll just back up against the nut. Then you take your fitting, kind of press it into place to get it started, and then the thread should catch, and you use your 10 Torx to go ahead and screw it in to give yourself a good surface to mate to the master cylinder. And it is advisable to wear gloves, even though it's a little more cumbersome just because of the brake fluid. So now that's on there snug, you don't need to over tighten it. It's just once it's snug, you're good to go. So you take your compression washer and your nut and you move it up to the end. Make sure this is not, your cable's not binding in any way, and then slide this in, the end of the hose in as far as it'll go. Once it stops, then mate up the compression washer and the nut, and it's a really fine thread on this as well, so make sure you do not cross thread it. So start it gently by hand and then spin it in, and once it stops you just need to snug it up a bit to get the washer to compress. But don't over tighten. So again, snug it up so it compresses, and that way it creates an airtight seal. And then place your rubber stopper back over the end and you're good to go. You're going to have air in the line now, so you will need to do a brake bleed, and we'll touch on that at a later date. But again, before you ride, make sure you bleed the brakes out. You're going to have air trapped in the line from doing this, so you want to make sure that you get all the stopping power you can from your brakes. So thanks for tuning in for this tech tip.